So speaking of great coffee roasters, so I had the pleasure of meeting Jeremy Gursey out of Vegas in LA. He was on my show a couple of weeks ago. He does coffee for bands. He does coffee for movie sets and has got a really unique method of roasting, which you guys could probably chinwag over for hours, which is an interesting method of roasting, which is called the cloud roast, which never actually touches, the roaster. It actually floats in the air. So it's a really cool process. And Jeremy's a big supporter of you. He's got a really great coffee that I love just as much as yours. He's put a lot of passion. He's got an amazing story so far that he's built up, and he wanted to send in a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind taking a couple of those. I figure on this we'll let him do his thing. So this is question number 1 from my friend Jeremy Gursey in Jeremy Gursey Coffee.
Hey Tim, Jeremy here from J. Gursey Coffee Roasters. Just want to say I'm a huge fan and have a lot of respect and admiration for you. My question to you is, what is your take on espresso extractions? Do you think there should be fracking, or do you think espresso should come out a solid, even color?
Wow.
We brought the big guys out for this episode, let me tell you.
Yeah. Never had that question before, actually, but it's quite interesting. I don't think I'm not so hung up on color on espresso, to be honest. I think it should be like when you're making a filter brew. The color in the beginning is always going to be darker because there's more to extract. And as long as the water is continuing pouring through the puck, you will just see lighter and lighter color on that water coming through. And I think why espresso is difficult is because you brew under pressure. It's very fine grinds. It's very easy to not do a proper kind of preparation of the cake of the coffee. So more often than not, you have very uneven extraction. It's very rare that I taste over-extracted espresso. It's very, very common that I taste under-extracted sour espressos. So for me, it's kind of a system that you have to figure out. And the best way to make better espresso is to start measuring extraction and figuring out how you can extract the most out of your coffee, because most of the equipment doesn't allow you to extract enough of the coffee. And even if you buy the most expensive machine and the most expensive grinders, I still experience problems with burrs and problems with pressure and water flow, and the espresso just ends up tasting very, very sour. And every time I get a complaint from a customer that our coffee is tasting sour from their espresso machine, I know it's not our coffee because it doesn't taste sour on our coffee machine. So then we have to go through and adjusting the machines and so on. So I think, to answer the question very simply, the color, it's normally darker in the beginning and lighter at the end, but you shouldn't see a lot of kind of light color coming through at the beginning, at least, because that means you didn't prepare your coffee puck well enough and the water is just flowing through some kind of easy way through the filter. And so whatever you can do to make the extraction as even as possible and as high as possible will make your espresso taste better. And if it's not tasting good, then maybe it's the roast and the coffee or the water that's the problem.
I find that most of the people I'm speaking to about espressos, the struggle is real on the burr and the grind and trying to figure out that, and it takes them sometimes 20 to 30 different espressos before they figure it out. And that's just for the home people at home. I'm sure it's a bigger struggle for people actually running a business and trying to get it right. So I can respect that journey a lot, because I know when I get a bad espresso, I go,
Yeah, I actually encourage people not to do espresso at home, because it does take a lot of time to dial in every day. And it's just a lot of waste of coffee and a lot of waste of time for a very, very little amount of coffee. And making an AeroPress or a V60 or filter coffee is so easy, and you get a bigger cup that you can enjoy for a longer time. So at least only people that I know that doesn't want to have filter coffee is Italians. They still want their espresso, you know.
I'm traveling with I got a company out of South Korea made a product called a Leverpresso. and it's a little mini espresso maker. And I travel with it on tour to make little Americanos with me, and it's kind of a fun little product. You know, you get a little puck, and next time in Oslo, I'll bring one by and show it to you. So
yeah, and we should make some in my store and have some espresso. I mean, I really don't get me wrong, I really like espresso. It's just for a lot of people who are not that into espresso, it's a lot of money and a waste to get an espresso machine and so on. But I do have clients that they have La Marzocco Minis at home, like a machine that's, it's not cheap, and then they've invested in a grinder and they love it, of course. But then it's sort of more of a hobby than it is just to making yourself a cup of coffee in the morning.
I've got one more question from Jeremy here. I believe it's on roasting, and we'll roll that, and then I'll finish up with you here because I know you got a busy day, or at least you're getting ready for dinner.
Perfect. Yeah.
Hey, Tim. Jeremy here from J. Gursey Coffee Roasters. My question to you is, do you have an ideal roast profile that you like to use? Obviously, I know from region to region it might vary profile-wise, but I'm wondering if you have a go-to profile you like to use.
Also a challenging question. A roast profile that I like to use. Well, it really depends on the roaster that I'm using, of course. And the first thing that I do when we get a new coffee is to measure moisture content of the coffee beans, because I know that a coffee bean with slightly higher moisture content, like 11% or more, needs more time and more energy in the roast. So on those coffees that have high moisture content, I would go quite aggressively in the beginning with heat, and then quite gentle at the end of the roast, because there's a lot of water in the bean, and it seems that you can kind of develop the bean with less energy at the end when it's very moist. If I have very dry coffees, which I do get from like Kenya and Ethiopia, where they have like 9% moisture, then we just roast, quite fast, I would say, and more heat at the end, and not so much heat at the beginning. But it really depends, and a lot of the coffees that I buy are quite different than what you would expect. So they're dried normally under shades, and they're quite hard and dense. So normally my coffees can take a lot of heat and energy. So we just go with a standard profile where we start with quite aggressive heat and try to roast the coffees quite fast, around 10 minutes in our lowering roaster. But it really depends on the roasting machine and your setup, how you should do it. So it's always a matter of testing, and tasting. And then if you're not happy, you try to speed up or slow down a little bit. But keep it simple. Don't do too many adjustments, because that's just going to confuse you. That's my biggest advice, I guess.
Do you ever get to Las Vegas?
I've never been. No, never.
Well, now that Jeremy's your best friend now, you're going to have to go and check out his roastery. It's pretty great.
For sure.
it's pretty cool.
Thanks for stopping by, friends, to the Brenton on Tour podcast channel on YouTube. Coffee, music, travel, life, all of those things. One page, lots of guests, lots of chatter. We talk about all of it. If you like it, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment. I'll get back to you. Thanks, friends. See you next time.